Hi everyone, my name's Matt, and one of the most classic ways of getting into PC gaming on a budget is to take an older office PC that you either bought or already own and upgrade it to be able to play PC games. In today's video, I'm going to be taking this desktop computer, which is about 5 years old, that I picked up for $120 and show you a bunch of different ways you could go about upgrading it. Everything from very simple and easy upgrades all the way to showing you what it takes to case swap one of the most proprietary pre-builds I've ever had my hands on. We'll be looking at what kind of performance increases you can expect and which upgrades are actually worth doing. So without further ado, let's get into the video. So when looking for a system upgrade, I had a few basic criteria. One was I wanted to stay around $100 so the initial investment was relatively low. Two, I wanted it to be new enough to run Windows 11 natively, which would also mean it probably supported CPUs capable of gaming. And three, I wanted to make sure it was in fact upgradable, so stuff like the mini and micro PCs were off the table. After looking at a bunch of different options, I stumbled upon this one here, a listing for an HP M01 that looked like it could be a good base for this project. It had a relatively modern AMD Ryzen CPU, had full height PCIe expansion, and from what I could tell was going to be relatively easy to upgrade and work on. I placed the order, which ended up being $113 plus $7 in tax and free shipping. About a week later, this box landed on my doorstep. Opening it up, I found the system itself and a power cable packaged reasonably well. There didn't appear to be any physical damage, but the outside definitely was a little dirty. Opening it up, it was unsurprising to find a pretty dusty interior, complete with very dirty fans, the occasional dust bunny, and a thick layer of dust on most surfaces. But before I started messing around with anything, I plugged the system into power and a monitor to make sure it turned on. Luckily it did and seemed to function, so I powered it down and was ready to move on to the next step. I decided to start by taking the internals out to have a better look at them and to clean them off individually. I started with the CPU cooler, unscrewing it and lifting it out. Next I unplugged the various power and data connectors, then removed the back exhaust fan, pulled out the power supply, and finally unscrewed and removed the motherboard itself. I popped out the RAM stick, removed the SSD, and used some isopropyl alcohol to remove the old thermal paste on the CPU. To clean the motherboard, I used a combination of a soft bristle brush and a hand vacuum to remove most of the dust. This technically could cause static, but I've never had a problem with it. Then I could move on to cleaning the CPU cooler, including the heatsink itself, along with the fan, which had a lot of dust on it. The final things to clean were the exhaust fan, and I also quickly did the case itself. So now that everything's been lightly cleaned off, let's look at what parts come with this $120 PC. The CPU that came installed is the AMD Ryzen 3 3400G, which is a 4-core 8-thread APU that can turbo up to 4.2 GHz. It also has built-in Vega 11 graphics that can actually play some games, which we'll take a look at in a minute. 4 cores and 8 threads, while not ideal, is still perfectly fine for budget gaming, especially for esports titles and lighter AAA games. This 3400G is sitting inside of this very proprietary HP AM4 board. It kinda looks like if you took a micro ATX board into Photoshop and just stretched it very wide. This board has 2 DIMM slots, an NVMe M.2 slot, a 1x PCIe slot, and a 16x PCIe slot. The back panel I/O is pretty lackluster, but the board's built-in front I/O does make up for this a bit. There's also an M.2 Wi-Fi card that attaches to antennas built into the case. For RAM, the system came with a single 8GB stick of DDR4 memory at 3200 MHz. 8 gigs of single channel RAM is far from ideal, so this is definitely a place we'll look at upgrading. For storage, the system came with a 256GB WD SM530 NVMe SSD. 256GB is enough for your OS, applications, and maybe 1 or 2 games, so this is definitely another area we're going to look at to upgrade. Also, to cool the CPU, the system's using a very basic aluminum cooler with a 92mm fan attached. This does get the job done, but temps do get pretty hot at times, which you'll be able to see in the benchmark section of the video. For the power supply, this PC is using what might be a TFX form factor or just some proprietary form factor power supply. This is rated for a measly 180 watts of total output, but is 80 plus gold rated, which is nice to see. Taking a look at the connectors, you can see this is far from a standard power supply with these dual 4-pin connectors and whatever this little connector is. All these parts went back inside of this also very non-standard case from HP, which has a subjectively nice clean aesthetic to it in my opinion. All in, for 120 bucks, this is a perfectly capable office PC to run Windows 11 for basic tasks, and while this is definitely not a gaming system, I did want to test it quickly so we can get some baseline numbers. Starting in Valorant at 1080p low, I saw an 88 FPS average with 1% lows of 26. This didn't feel great, and I don't know if this experience would even be good enough for casual play. In Fortnite at 1080p in performance mode with basically everything set to low, it was a bit of a mess. Just landing in and seeing the textures take forever to load in was pretty hilarious, and over the course of the match I saw a 51 FPS average with very poor 1% lows of 10. Again, this was not a great experience, and I probably wouldn't consider this playable myself. For the heck of it, I loaded up a few AAA games. In Borderlands 3 at 1080p low, I saw a 17 FPS average with 1% lows of 13, and in Cyberpunk, it was also basically a slideshow at 1080p low when I saw 11 FPS average and 1% lows of 7. So not really playable in any of these games, but there's one quick upgrade we can make that might change this, and this is upgrading the system memory. Right now, with 8 gigs of single channel RAM, we are heavily hindering our CPU and iGPU performance. Now the thing I would recommend doing is buying another identical stick of memory off of eBay, which a few months ago would have been like 10 or 15 bucks, but unfortunately with recent RAM price increases, this is more like $30+ for another 8GB stick. I forgot to order one for this project, so I just decided to switch the single stick out for another kit that I had on hand. To my surprise, a bunch of my known working kits were only showing one stick in use when I installed them into the system. The kit I ended up getting to work is this basic ADATA set of 2x8GB at 2666 MHz, which isn't ideal but is definitely better than single channel RAM. I bought this 16GB kit a year ago for a little over $20, but again, these are going for like $50+ a kit now, which is unfortunate. So just to reiterate, I would recommend just trying to find and buy an identical stick to the existing one and doing research on what memory is known to be working with your system before purchasing. So does going from 8GB of single channel RAM to 16GB of dual channel RAM make any difference in gaming? Well, actually yes. In Valorant at 1080p low, I saw an increase in average FPS by about 50% and an over 100% increase in 1% lows. This took the experience from borderline unplayable to actually pretty enjoyable, which shows you the power of using dual channel memory with Ryzen CPUs and APUs. In Fortnite, I saw similar increases in performance. The 1% lows still weren't great, but it was a lot more playable in my opinion, and while the visuals aren't great at the settings, I was still able to do relatively well in the lobbies I was playing in. Borderlands 3 also saw gains, but it was still under 30 FPS average, so definitely not playable. So if we had taken this $120 base system and put in another 8GB stick at $35, that would put the running total to $155. So what are the next items I would look at upgrading? The first is another easy one, which is storage. The 256GB SSD is fine for your OS, applications, some documents, and maybe one of your most played games, but you're definitely going to want more space. The most economically efficient way to go about this is to grab a cheap SATA SSD of around 500GB or 1TB depending on your budget and throw that in as game storage. A 500GB SATA SSD is going to run about $45 right now, which again is higher priced than it was just a few months ago. For the purpose of testing, I just threw in a 1TB NVMe drive, but again, if I was doing this on a tight budget, I would personally add a 500GB SATA SSD to keep costs down. So for the base system, RAM upgrade, and 500GB SATA SSD, we're now at a running total of $200. If all you're wanting to do is basic office work, play stuff like Valorant, Fortnite, and League of Legends, then honestly this PC at $200 would work perfectly fine. With that being said, if you want more gaming performance, this is where we're going to want to start looking at a dedicated GPU. Because our power supply is low wattage and doesn't have PCIe power cables, it means we're going to be limited to cards that only pull power from the PCIe slot itself unless we upgrade the power supply, which we'll explore later. The best card we can get that fits this criteria is an NVIDIA RTX 3050 6GB, and while this card is hated by many, for situations like this, it's actually a pretty solid option. You can get these for around $150 off of eBay. To install it, I just had to open the PCIe cover flap, remove the two PCIe slot covers for the 16X slot, and push the card into place. Once the flap was returned and clipped in, the card was installed. So what kind of performance did I get from adding this dedicated GPU? Well, in Valorant at 1080p medium, I saw a significant increase in average FPS and 1% lows, providing what some people would consider enough performance for even competitive play. In Fortnite at the same 1080p low settings, I saw a massive increase in performance with an average of 134 FPS with 1% lows of 67. This brought things from a playable experience to an enjoyable one in my opinion. In Borderlands 3 at 1080p medium, this upgrade produced a 87 FPS average with 1% lows of 58, which was good to see, and in Cyberpunk at 1080p medium, this office PC with a 3050 produced a 68 FPS average with 1% lows of 40. Finally, for the heck of it, I loaded up Borderlands 4, which is one of the latest and hardest to run games, and surprisingly, I got a playable experience at 40 FPS average and 1% lows of 22, which was a bit surprising. So adding in the 3050 6GB for $150 would bring the running total to $350, and for that price, this system is able to easily play esports games and even play a lot of older and easier to run AAA titles. But what if you want a more powerful GPU, or at least one with more than 6GB of video memory? Well, that will require a power supply upgrade. Some pre-builds use standard connectors that allow you to throw in an ATX power supply, some will work with a standard power supply if you use an adapter, and others that are more proprietary like this system will only use OEM models. Luckily, for about $50, you can grab a compatible 500 watt unit from eBay that does have PCIe power cables. This could then be paired with something like this AMD RX 6650 XT, which I recently got for $180. Switching out the original power supply and installing this new GPU was simple and straightforward, and going with this combination over the 3050 would cost $430, so was the extra money well spent? Let's find out. In Fortnite, running at the same 1080p low and Blitz Royale matches, I saw very similar performance to the 3050, which was to be expected in esports/CPU limited titles. In Valorant, I actually saw a slight decrease in performance, which was a little surprising, but it still was plenty of FPS in my opinion. In Borderlands 3, the 6650 XT setup produced about 29% more average FPS and about 17% higher 1% lows. Cyberpunk showed a 16 and 22% increase in average and 1% lows respectively, and Borderlands 4 showed a 10% increase in the average FPS and 22% increase in the lows. So while the 6650 XT did provide more performance in some titles, I'm not sure it was worth the extra $80. Upgrading the CPU might make the difference larger, but there are very limited upgrade options. The Ryzen 5 4600G is the next step up in compatible CPUs, but I don't think it would be worth getting as these go for nearly $100 for a fully working unit. So the 3050 setup with a 4600G would be around $450, and the 6650 XT setup with a 4600G would be around $530, which at that price I would recommend just trying to build a custom system. So I've upgraded my pre-built's performance, but what if I want to make it look cooler? Can I just swap the case? For some systems, yes, you can just take the parts and put them into a standard case. You may have to look at front panel pinouts, but you should be able to do it with relative ease if your pre-built is using mostly standard parts. For this HP M01, it's a much different story, and up front, it's not worth it, but I'll do it anyway to make a point. To do the case swap, I started by pulling the parts out of the original case. Then I got out my new case, which is this Dark Flash DB330M. I opened it up, and when I set the motherboard in, I realized 0 of the standoffs lined up. But I didn't give up. I used my GPU to hold the motherboard in the correct spot and mark the mounting holes that had metal beneath them. Then I drilled appropriate sized holes for the standoffs to go into. I only got 4 to work, but that should be enough. I made sure to remove all the original standoffs as those could press against the back of the board and potentially cause a short. Then I installed 4 of those into my newly drilled standoff holes. With that done, the motherboard could be lowered down and screwed into place. Then the rest of the build was relatively straightforward. Luckily, all the power cables reached where they needed to go, and while not perfect, I did get the power supply mounted with 2 screws. I also needed a cheap $3 RGB controller as the motherboard doesn't have an RGB header. So with all the parts in, I powered it on, and it was technically working, but with some elephant-sized caveats. None of the front panel I/O is functional, and that's because this board has built-in front panel ports and not headers like you'd find on a more traditional motherboard. You can use adapters like this one right here, but I didn't have room at the front of the case for this one to work. Even the power button is directly connected to the motherboard, so I would either need to pull off the side panel every time I want to turn the PC on, or solder jumper cables directly to the button. and that would work fine, but that's just another extra thing you'd have to do to get this proprietary board working in a standard case. As you can see, some pre-builts, while you can technically case swap them with a lot of work, are much better just staying in their original cases. Plus, this case and adapters would add another 50 to 100 bucks, which just isn't worth it at this budget when you could use that money to add more performance to your system. So with all the different upgrade options, what would I go with personally, or would I even do this at all? Well, if you have a Ryzen based pre-build or an 8th gen or newer Intel pre-build, I don't think it's an awful idea to upgrade to 16GB of RAM, a usable amount of SSD storage, and throw in a card like a 3050. This will give you solid performance in most of the popular titles like Fortnite, Valorant, Minecraft, and many more while not breaking the bank. With that being said, if your total investment is reaching around $400 or more, that's the point where I would personally start looking at trying to build something custom if you're willing to go down that route. With all that being said, I'm interested to hear what you guys think. Would you, or even have you, upgraded a pre-built for gaming? Do you think I picked some good options, or should I went with different parts like upgrading the CPU? Let me know in the comments below. So yeah guys, I think it's time to wrap this video up. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, consider giving it a thumbs up and subscribing. And as always, this is Matt from Tech by Matt, signing out.